have self-care. A lot of people think that's being selfish. No, it's not. And so I've really developed some hands-on practical things that can be done in terms of making life sustainable. I don't want to see more people crash and burn. That's my passion, to see people last the distance for the long haul, not just run a short race, but run this marathon of life and live well and do it well.
Calling all Kingdom women entrepreneurs, the vision builders, the boundary breakers, and the passion igniters who know they're called and anointed to impact positive change for the kingdom through your business.
A business that honors and serves God. Welcome to Kingdom Women Entrepreneurs Podcast.
This is your host, Fidelis Cruz.
And I'm Anne-Marie Cross. Now, onto the show.
Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Kingdom Women Entrepreneurs Podcast. Thank you for being here with us. Our guest today is a woman whose life's work is proof that faith and profession were never meant to be separate. Dr. Amanda Nickson is a wife, a mother, author, speaker, and social worker, and pastor. And for Amanda, social work was never just a career choice. It's an extension of her faith, a way to serve people at their point of greatest need. And she brings together her professional expertise and her deep walk with God to offer real hope and real solutions to individuals, organizations, and communities who are looking for a way forward. Through her Christian ministry, Amanda runs workshops on faith, building resilience, thriving with purpose, and creating vision. She's a sought-after speaker at women's conferences, churches, and organizations across the country. And behind the scenes, she provides professional and pastoral supervision to pastors, chaplains, social workers, and human service workers, pouring back into the people who pour into everyone else. And we're especially excited to have her with us today because Amanda is winner of the 2024 KWE Award for Christian Book of the Year for her powerful book, The Resilient Leader. So please welcome to the show, Dr. Amanda Nickson. We're so blessed to have you again with us. How have you been?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Very, very excited with all that's happening in my life.
Yes.
And how good God is.
Yes, so good. And we're so excited to unpack that together today. So welcome back. For everyone meeting you for the first time now, we would love for you to describe the heart behind your work, because there are so many things that we, just mentioned just there on your introduction. What is the heart behind your work, Amanda?
I suppose I see opportunity to help others reach their full potential, and that's really my heart, is to encourage other people in their life's journey to overcome any obstacles they might have, because with God the sky's the limit. There's no limit, actually. And I think people just need encouragement along the way, someone else believing in them, someone else helping them, and then they can go on and do amazing things. And that's what I love to see, empowering others.
It's beautiful. And also through the introduction, we could really sense the heart of that, I think, certainly coming through. Now, speaking of hats, you do wear many. Let me just repeat some of the things mentioned in the intro: social worker, pastor, author, speaker, and bringing that sense of hope and encouragement to all, I'm sure. So I wonder, how do these roles feed into each other rather than compete for your time? That can be difficult sometimes, yes? How do you manage that? How do you do that?
I suppose I just get up and look at my diary and what am I doing today? Who am I today? Which hat have I got on this morning? It's the same person that I bring to any situation. So whether I'm turning up as a supervisor for a social worker or turning up as a pastoral supervisor for a chaplain in a school, you still bring yourself to that encounter and that meeting. So I'm wanting to share the love and hope that Jesus gives us, and I'm able to combine my professional knowledge and skills that meet the situation as needed. And that way it's just me every time I turn up to an appointment, but I tailor what the required knowledge and skills and support are needed for that meeting.
So
Beautiful.
good. I remember when oh, sorry, Anne
I was
Marie.
going to say, can I jump in? Because I think something that was just mentioned, I think we really need to hold on to, because you said, Amanda, that you're bringing the talents, the strengths, the gifts that the Lord has created in you and prepared you for, and you see those being brought across whatever assignment, if we can call it that,
Yeah.
working. So I guess that's a really good reminder for us that if we are in a situation where something feels heavy and draining, to perhaps ask ourselves, is this really aligned with the way, where and how God wants me to be? Were you always like that? Were you always, tell us through kind of the process of you really realizing this is where I'm meant to be, this is where I'm called, this is where I'm skilled and strengthened in the way God wants me to work?
That's an interesting question. For many years, decades, I was a social worker working at the coalface, if you like. So working with people in crisis, people who are homeless, people that were in situations of domestic and family violence, being kicked out of home as young people at risk. I worked with a lot of people in all those sorts of situations, people dealing with injuries, adjusting to loss and grief. And after a number of years, I got to a point I thought, I don't know that I can keep doing this crisis work. You know, it's very possible to get overwhelmed and I had compassion fatigue and burnout a couple of times in my career. And I had an opportunity I was given an opportunity to work at a university as an academic. And so I took that route for a number of years. But during that time, I also thought, well, actually, my real calling, I believe, was to be serving the people in the church as well as the people in academia, students. I love working with students. But I had a pull on my heart that I wanted to do more for God. And supervision has always been my passion. I actually did a PhD on professional supervision with social workers in rural and remote Australia. Without sufficient support, many social workers resign, leave the profession, burn out, and it's similar for pastors. Since I've been doing supervision for pastors and chaplains, I've found a number that only reach out for help when they're already at the point of burnout and overwhelm. And that's what really inspired me to do supervision, to be available to support people along the road so that we don't lose good people, talented people that are wanting to serve, but they're not, if they don't have the correct support and systems around them that give them permission to have a day off, to look after themselves. And so that's what really motivated me to write my book, The Resilient Leader. I wanted to prevent that burnout and overwhelm rather than picking up the pieces afterwards. And there are some really easy things we can do to build our resilience, which is a skill we can learn. If we feel we don't have any, we can learn it and practice it like any other skill. And it's just even giving people permission to look after themselves and have self-care. A lot of people think that's being selfish. No, it's not. And so I've really developed some hands-on practical things that can be done in terms of making life sustainable. I don't want to see more people crash and burn. And I've seen that particularly in the church space with, really enthusiastic young leaders that are juggling young families, studies, part-time work, ministry. And if the balance isn't right, they sometimes needed that permission that you can actually take a holiday. You don't have to be a workaholic. You do need to take time out regularly to look after your health and your wellness. And so that's what I've developed. That's my passion, to see people last the distance for the long haul, not just run a short race, but run this marathon of life and live well and do it well and be those shining lights in the community for others to see what is it about that person that's different, that despite the challenges, they're still smiling, they're still loving life. That's what I'm wanting to help people with.
Beautiful. Isn't it amazing, Fiz? I wanted one quick, and then I'll let you go because this is just so exciting. Because how often do many of us look at our previous experience and we think, oh, well, that was then. But when we see God's fingerprints, a golden thread being woven, you went through that experience because you now, as his entrusted steward, to be able to support others in that area. You've walked that journey first. Isn't God
Yes,
amazing? It really
yes.
is.
Mm.
Okay.
Thank you
Oh,
for that.
next question. Sorry for that.
Oh, it's okay. I'm just so excited as well. I feel like it's such a powerful work that you do, Dr. Amanda. You know, people that are serving and pouring out to others, they need that help as well. And sometimes we always put ourselves last. When you're pouring out and serving community, you're just thinking about everybody else, and you forget that, you know what, I actually need to fill my cup first before I
Yes.
can serve others. And it really is that, really receiving from the Lord first, feeling yourself first, and so that you're coming from a place of overflow and helping everyone else around you. So, I guess for those people who might be listening now that are also giving back and pouring out to others, I would like to ask, what does that it actually means to have a thriving life, a life that is coming from a place of overflow? What does that actually look like day to day, and how can we live like that?
I find for me, I've looked at 5 different areas where I need to be refreshed, and they're spiritually, I need to be refreshed daily. Physically, I need to be refreshed, emotionally, socially, and also psychologically. And what I've also found is if I don't actually schedule time in my diary, almost like making an appointment with myself for this to happen, it doesn't happen. Um, so I need to set aside time to refresh my spirit and spend time in the Word, just to pray, to spend time with God, praising. If I don't make time for that, it doesn't happen otherwise. I also think, well, there's often things in my life that are a bit out of my control or have been previously around workload or life events that just happen. But I can certainly do things about my physical well-being, like what am I putting into my body? Am I eating healthy things or junk food? Am I um, doing some regular exercise to help my physical frame be strong and last the distance? Because we've been given this amazing body that can regenerate cells and do all sorts of things, but we need to give it the right fuel and the right rest. Am I getting enough sleep? Am I operating at my optimum because I'm looking after my body? Then there's my emotions. Am I connecting with people that build me up rather than drain me? So if you're giving out all the time, I think it's also really important to be able to meet regularly with the people that fill your cup and that support you rather than draining you. And so that means actually for me making time to meet with a girlfriend for coffee on Saturday morning or whenever, because I know that person is in my corner and is going to cheer me on and encourage me rather than drain me.
Mm, yeah.
And then for the psychological or academic side, it's, am I reading something that's feeding my hunger for more knowledge about God, for more knowledge about a particular area I'm wanting to develop? Am I getting that fuel and food to keep going forward? So I just think it's really important to have a plan, a self-care plan that's in some ways locked in, or that I have accountability. So otherwise it doesn't happen. If I just say, oh, I want to get healthy, well, that's a bit vague. But if I say, I want to eat healthy dinners at least 5 nights a week, I want to walk 10,000 steps a day. To do that, I've got a watch now that counts my steps and that keeps me accountable. Or I'm going to meet with a girlfriend twice a week to walk together, and that makes me do it. Whereas if it's just left to me, I might say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Like it's building in some things that keep us accountable. I suppose I like to think of it a bit like a seatbelt self-care. Every day we get in a car and drive and we put on a seatbelt without even thinking. And what's that for? That's to prevent injury in the event of an accident or a crisis. We do it so many times a day, we don't think twice. I think we need to be doing the same sorts of things around our self-care automatically every day, that we're doing things for each of those areas of our life, for our spirit, for our body, for our mind, for our soul, as a prevention, because you don't put on the seatbelt after you've had a car crash. You actually have it on beforehand. And I think it needs to be the same when we're looking after ourselves in terms of self-care. And that builds our resilience, because then we've got reserves if a crisis comes, if a unexpected drama happens in our life. We've already got those reserves ready for that situation.
Yeah. I love that you touched on all of the different parts of ourselves, who we are. And sometimes we forget that we are actually made of different things and there's different parts of us. And at times it's like, okay, I want to look after myself and I'm just going to treat myself to, one thing. And perhaps it's reading a book or journaling or something, but we can be so focused on just that one thing, but we've totally neglected all the other aspects. So I love that that was a really great reminder for all of us to have a look at those different parts. And I love the best thing that I got from what you mentioned. My favorite part is what I like to say is the accountability part, because again, we can have it all written down and go, okay, very specifically, this is what I want to do. But yet, if we don't have the right community or a person to cheer us on and guide us through that process, it can be, really hard to maintain that. So accountability is super important. So thank you for sharing that, Amanda. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, in your work with, of course, supporting pastors, chaplains, human services, and of course, we know our audience are women entrepreneurs. Do you find, I mean, whilst all of those are really important, do you find through your experience with working with these people that there are more where it may have started, where you think this area is so lacking, it's inhibiting the others? So, I mean, I know they're all important, but has there been one that's really stood out that you say, look, if you don't look after this area, eventually it's going to impact all of the others. And if you really want to focus on the one thing first rather than all of them, I would recommend focus on this first and then the others can come after that. Have you any insight?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think with the church community, if any leaders, any workers, any business people, the message we get from the church is all about our spirituality and our spiritual self. And yes, that's very important. But I think we neglect all those other areas. So the physical, the emotional, the psychological, the social, I think they're neglected in messages that we get in the Christian community. So I can't prescribe that there's one in particular that's missing. I think it's different for different people. But even the basics like, are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating well? Like, I think often they're things in our control. And sometimes I've just met so many people that are like workaholics from motives of doing the best they can, and they're just overcommitted. And so I suppose I've often had discussions with people about there's only 24 hours in a day to be healthy if you really tried to have 8 hours sleep and some hours to have with your family, cook dinner, have dinner. Why are you working 12, 14 hours a day? Okay, you might do that for a crisis or because someone's off sick, but if that's your normal, it's actually not sustainable. And you might think, well, I'm fine, I'm superwoman, I can do anything. but it's having an impact on you not being available for your children, not being available for your husband, not being available for your other friends. And I got to a point in my life, I was working a job, no matter what I did, I felt like it wasn't enough. And I came to the decision. I had a, permanent full-time job at a university, very good pay, very good. Um, I loved the job for a while, and for a season, that was where God had placed me, and He'd opened the door for me to go there. But then I came to a point where I recognised, actually, I think this season is over. It's causing me stress. It's not allowing me to have the time to do the ministry I want to do. And so I made a decision to resign from that job, start my own business, much smaller, much less regular pay. But I'm a much happier person because I'm able to manage my own workload. I have the flexibility to be doing ministry, spending time with family and friends that I'd felt like were getting the dregs of me on Friday night when I was wrung out and exhausted. Family and church were getting what was left. And I'm thinking, I've got it back to front. Like, to me, they should be getting the best of me. And yes, we work, and we want to work to the best of our ability with excellence. But I just felt there had to be like a realignment or a shift in how I prioritised everything in my life. And yeah, I can't say that there's one particular area. It varies from person to person. But I think just looking at the balance overall, and do we set boundaries around, everyone wants you to be on their committee or be involved in this, be involved in that. Have we actually thought about, well, if I take on one more thing, something else needs to come off the plate because there's only a limited number of hours. And I just find very committed, generous people overcommit and then can't actually deliver what they've said they'll do, feel guilty, put in the 20 hours a day days, like
Yeah.
it's vicious. It's really important to work out exactly what am I needing to be doing right now that God has called me to do. There's lots of other good things I could be involved with, but I can't do them all. And so to be really discerning and to set some boundaries to make sure you're doing what you need to be doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can so totally relate to this, right? Bang on. Because I think this world always makes you feel like if you're not doing much, you're not being, if you're resting, you're not being productive. If you're not busy enough and you don't look busy enough,
Yeah.
but it really is, as you said, Amanda, I feel like it goes down to boundaries, and boundaries are really good for stewardship because we're really looking after and managing the time that God has given us. And, always going back to that this life that we have is actually just borrowed. God has blessed us with this time, the body that He has given us. So for us to steward that, I feel like when I hear the word steward, that really compels me to go, oh my gosh, yes, have I eaten the right foods? Have I rested enough? Have I, because that needs to fuel where what I need to do moving forward. And I won't be able to function well, and I'm not going to give people my best if I'm not taking care of myself. So I love that. Going back to accountability, and yeah, just I don't know, I felt like I just really wanted to share that. Oh my gosh, these days we're always comparing ourselves to people that, perhaps are doing amazing things, great things, but they're just not, we never know. They could have like a chef doing their cooking, they could have a
Yeah.
driver, they could have all of these things. And then on social media, we can tend to see the highlight reels and go, oh my gosh, am I doing enough? And if we feel like we're not doing enough, we take on more than we can chew. And
Yeah.
that's where the stress actually comes from when we're taking on way too much and not setting those boundaries. So, great reminder. And I just wanted to take us now back to 2024 and a huge congratulations for winning the Christian Book of the Year award for The Resilient Leader, which a book that we all need to help us to become more resilient, right? So I wanted to just take you back into that moment. How did you feel when you received the award, and how, what does the recognition mean for you?
I was incredibly humbled and honoured to receive an award, because that just was so unexpected and such a privilege and honour. Um, I felt very grateful. And what I found is it's amazing how having an award gives you more recognition and credibility. And I've felt that that's maybe opened a few more doors or given me more credibility as someone that has something to say in this space about resilience. There's lots of books on resilience out there. So to be recognised as having something worth looking at has meant a lot. And I think it has actually been helpful in opening doors.
Wonderful. And also, and I'm sure you'd agree, Fidelis, as we've heard Amanda share, principles, and it's so important across all of those areas to be mindful that we're not just sewing into one area and stewarding one area well, unfortunately to the detriment of others. It's so important. And to be able to capture that, I would say that the principles are certainly in your book for others to now read through and to be mindful. Am I doing those things? Have I got accountability? Am I fueling myself? Am I sleeping well? I wonder if there was one principle that you would like to take from the book to remind us of today. What would that one principle or reminder be?
Wow, that's a good question. I suppose I really like the concept of when we're working with people, you can have compassion fatigue and compassion satisfaction. And are you working in ways that you're getting satisfaction? So you're feeling like you're making a difference. You're getting the feedback that what you're doing matters, is worthwhile, is helping that person. Or are you working where your compassion is just being drained out of you and you're not seeing any results? You're not, you're just overwhelmed with working with people actually drains us. And so I always think it's important to look for, yes, am I getting that job satisfaction? Am I getting joy out of what I'm doing? Or if it's too big a drain, maybe be questioning, am I in the right job? Am I in the right place doing this role at this point in time? And I'm really reminded that sometimes we're in the right place for a season, but then when it starts to get uncomfortable, maybe it's time to move on. God's moving us to something better. So I don't know if that answers that question, but it's just a thought that came to me.
Oh, isn't it? Compassion fatigue. We could be in a role that we think, well, this is where I've been led and called. However, that may be for a season. And you gave that beautiful example. For a season, you were working as a social worker, and it was a stepping stone to other areas. And it was certainly, you brought all of the things that you learned and that the Lord showed you into now the book and the work that you do with your clients. So amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I want to ask you this question, Dr. Amanda. I like when I hear resilience, the word resilience, I love it. If I ask, does anyone want resilience? I think everyone wants to put their hand up and want resilience, right? But I feel like this word has been used quite a lot, and we don't kind of have a real understanding of what resilience is these days. So I wanted to ask you, how would you define it when you look at it through the eyes of faith? What does resilience actually mean in the scriptures, and what does that look like?
So resilience, I suppose the standard definition you hear in the secular world is it's being able to bounce back after a setback. I prefer the definition that talks about being able to bounce forward and advance because we've actually learnt and grown through whatever setbacks and circumstances we have in life. So I believe everything that we go through, God can use for our good. So that Romans 8:28, that God works all things together for our good. But I think resilience from the scriptures, I really like to think of Elijah, who had a major victory. There's a story in the Old Testament where there's a contest between the people who believe in the gods of Baal and Elijah, who believes in the one true God. And he has this amazing victory. But then the next day he's attacked. Someone says they're going to kill him, and he runs off into the desert. He hides, collapses, and he actually says to God, take me. I want to die. He's almost suicidal. He's exhausted. He collapses. And what does God do? He doesn't judge him. He doesn't give him a lecture. He ministers to him. An angel brings him food, brings him water, and he sleeps. And then this happens again. He wakes up and looks for God, and then the angel gives him more water and food, and he sleeps. And then he goes and seeks God. And I think that just reminds me that even the greatest, he's an amazing prophet and person in the Bible, but he had that moment where he was overwhelmed, wanted to quit, burnt out, wanted to end his life, wanted God to end his life. And I think, wow, we can go from a great victory to absolute despondency and fear and feel like this is too much, I want to end it. But God's answer was rest, refresh, just have some sustenance, and then seek him. And I think he then sought God and heard his voice for what was the next step, what was the next assignment. And that to me is what we need to do. When we're overwhelmed, we need rest. Like our body can't take anymore. Our mind can't take anymore. We need rest, and we just need water, refreshment, nourishment, physically, but then also spiritually. He sought God and found God's voice. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this just reminded me, Anne-Marie, of when I was in one of my lowest points about 4 years ago now. I was in a very, very low point, and God brought me to that story. So thank you for sharing it again, because then I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember those times, and God brought me to that story, and I actually didn't know about that story until 4 years ago when I was going through that really, really tough time. So I love that God speaks to us in the scriptures, right? And just through those
Yeah.
stories. And I wanted to ask you if there was a person today who was listening, and perhaps they are stretched thin and they're like, oh my gosh, I just want to give up now. What message would you give them today?
Maybe to take time out. If they're in a job, can they take a sick day? Can they take leave? Take time out to refresh before they make any decisions, any big decisions about their future. Because I think often it's when we're exhausted, we make poor decisions, and what our body is screaming for is rest. It's like we don't listen to the warning signs. Like, with stress, you might get tension headaches, sore shoulders, upset stomach. And how often do people just ignore those symptoms and keep pushing through? But it's like our body's early warning system is trying to tell us, you need to slow down. You need to do something different. You need a day off. You need a change. So I would say don't rush any decisions. Try to have some time out, even if it's a day off, days off, where you can sleep, where you can rest, where you can refresh, and then relook at what's tomorrow going to look like? What is my job going to look like? What is my life going to look like? But don't rush any decision today.
Beautiful. Such a wonderful reminder for us all. I wonder, Amanda, where do you feel or sense that God is leading your ministry and message next in this next season?
That's a really good question. I'm wanting to offer more, I suppose, intensive support or opportunities for women, and I've planned a women's wellness weekend later in the year, and as a place where people can be refreshed, refine their vision for the next season, learn some self-care and resilience skills. And so I would love opportunity to be offering more of those wellness weekends where focusing on that self-care, resilience, but also that clarity around purpose and who am I and what am I doing and what's the next things I'm going to be doing. I would love to be doing more of those sorts of either weekends or workshops. I suppose that's my heart, just to help equip people to live their best life and do all the amazing things they could do.
Mm. Love it. Well, we love what you're doing, Dr. Amanda. And
Thank
for
you.
everyone at KWE, how can they get in touch with you? How can they get your book and explore those courses that you'll have soon? Let us know, please.
Yeah, so probably the best place is my website, which is amandanickson.com.au. And it's got a tab with all my books. You can order the books directly from me there. I will be updating it with available courses in due time. Or they could email me would be the other option. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Amanda. We are so blessed to have you with us and
Oh, thank you for
hearing
the
all the
opportunity.
amazing things God is doing in your life and in your ministry, in your business. We declare even greater things in the coming years, and we're just so excited to see you grow. And thank you so
Thank
much
you
for sharing
so
your
much.
story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Loved it.
Thanks for listening. We hope you've been encouraged by today's message. If you'd like to find out more about how you can work with a Christian business coach and to grow your business and be part of our free KWE community, go to kingdomwomenopentrepreneurs.com.
And if you'd like to learn more about how to start a Kingdom Focused podcast so you can build your visibility and impact in a much bigger way, go to podcastingwithpurpose.com/Kingdom Podcast. And we would love you to leave some feedback over on our Apple Podcast channel. We'd really appreciate it.